I'm going to read to you a blog post I wrote back in 2020. I was doing a series of posts on a prompt that I called A to Z. And I would take the letter of the alphabet each day and sequentially move through it. So this is the first post from that series, and the title of it is called Adventure. And the reason I'm doing this is because I think it'd be cool to record myself reading these stories for future me, for my kids, and hey, maybe someday grandkids. But also, this is my way of starting to practice for teaching, because I'm going to be doing that really soon. So here we go. This is Adventure. The call of the wild has been singing to me lately, as it does when some time has passed since my last adventure. The wanderlust part of my soul heeded the call, and I found myself assembling the gear for a visit to my favorite little Alpine lake this past Saturday evening. Destination unknown. While no lakes are secret in the day and age of satellite imagery, there are still many less visited little gems nestled in basins and snugged up against ridge lines of the Central Oregon Cascades. These idyllic spots typically have no official trail to their shores. Rather, access is only granted to those whom heed the call of the wild. The destination for my trip was going to be one of these little lakes, this special solitude-rich spot where I've had some of my most magical moments in the high country chasing trout. A sampling of those moments include fishing through a late fall storm with Samson at my side, watching the bobbers scream away from the surface, cast after cast after cast. Encountering my first black bear in the state of Oregon. I was floating in my tube, without a care in sight, when I heard a noise from the far shore. The bear splashed into the water, then sauntered away into the woods. I don't think it even knew I was there. And y'all, that moment of discovery, that is the magic. When you step off the trail into the unknown and you find that spot. So my coffee from McDonald's was hot, and I have no idea how or why, but I find it rather tasty, and it kept me warm against the cold temps outside. After bumping along over 5 miles of horrid washboard road and crawling around tight rock-studded corners, I arrived at the trailhead for the spot. After lacing up my boots and throwing the pack on my back, I, for some unknown reason, decided to mix it up and stash my keys in my pocket instead of stashing them near the truck. So I zipped them away in that pocket, and I headed off to the north. The scenic route. When traveling off-piste in the Oregon Cascades, one encounters mostly 4 types of terrain in my experience. Grassy meadows filled with fairies. I've yet to find these types of locations. Swamps with special types of mud that render boots a hazard rather than a traction device. Or never-ending piles of scree, pumice, and sketchy razor-sharp volcanic rock. Or 4, an unnavigable mess of beetle kill blowdown. This trail was comprised mostly of the latter. And I imagine that while dealing limbo through one of these piles of blowdown trees is when the keys of the truck fell out of a hole in that secured, zippered pocket. I don't know if the hole was there before or if it ripped open as I thrashed through some brush, but it didn't matter much because when I arrived at the lake, the keys were gone. Fishing is life. When life throws a curveball like this, we find ourselves presented with one of life's great gifts, the power of choice. How wonderful is that to have a fresh problem dropped in your lap, far from the tendrils of cell service. I've been tracking my route into the lake because I never seem to take the same route twice into there, and I like to collect data. So I thought about tracing back along the track and looking for the keys. I also considered the spare key that I had zip-tied to the frame of my truck. That saved my bacon 1 or 2 times before. Perhaps it was still there, waiting to save this day. Ultimately, I decided to go fishing because, like Ted Lasso taught us in that football is life, I felt that fishing is life. Make space for the magic. Indeed, I could have allowed my mind to get wrapped up in the worry of the situation, but instead I opted to be present to where I was and enjoy the adventure. Like many times before, this great little spot provided some wonderful memories and a few really nice fish. Rebecca's rescue service. While I wish I could have floated away the entire day on the lake, I most definitely did not want to assume the best outcome of the lost keys. So I decided to hike back to the truck and not try and find the keys the entire time. It was most definitely a needle haystack sort of problem, and instead I was hoping the hole was already in my pocket and they fell out close to the truck. And upon arriving back at the truck, all hopes were quickly dashed of an easy outcome. My quick exploration up the initial route yielded no keys, and within 100 yards of the truck, my path entered a dried swamp with knee-high grass. I didn't have time to sink into a search. I wanted to get out to cell phone service well ahead of dark so Becky, my wife, wouldn't launch a search for me. And of course, the spare key was no longer to be found. Likely the zip tie became brittle and it floated away into a gutter months prior. My only last option was to start to hike. And hike I did, back down that bumpy washboard road, and the smoke from a nearby wildfire rolled in to keep me company around mile 2. 5 miles later, my cell phone displayed a 1x connection. I couldn't send texts, but I was able to call Becky and let her know that I was okay and that I needed some help. She arrived about an hour later with some ice-cold water and a spare set of keys. I'm so fortunate to have someone to watch out for me in this adventure of life. Lessons from the trail. This little adventure was the kind that had a happy ending. Indeed, my legs were a bit stiff at the desk on Monday, but my soul was satiated from the wonderful adventure. But I most definitely learned a few things, and I'm making some changes to my requisite adventure gear, because sometimes you need a little bit more than an Egg McMuffin and a cup of coffee to ensure a successful trip. I'm going to go back to always stashing my keys near the rig. Maybe not the best thing to share on the internet, but it makes sense to me. I purchased a Garmin GPS with inReach satellite communication also. I've been on the fence about this for years, but this whole episode would have been pretty easier with satellite communications. And lastly, when confronted with a problem, it often helps to still go fish. And of course, start planning the next adventure. That's the end of my story today, y'all. Let me know if you enjoyed this. Leave some comments, and I'll keep reading blog posts to you. And hey, students, I'll see you guys soon. Stay sparkly, y'all.